I think we are in for another fear crisis in the run-up to the 2024 elections to get the people off the minds off the people of the clowns, the jerks that are running this country, so they can keep staying in control and robbing us of our freedom. And when you talk about freedom of speech, you have no freedom. All you have to do is believe the crap that the government shoves down your throat and swallow it. And if you don't believe what the government believes, and you could think for yourself and have the own facts to think for yourself, that's misinformation.
K. Jr., like you and me, like a lot of other people who live to move the dial of public opinion, in your case and in my case, it's towards human freedom, and the same with Bobby, challenge the government, and we're prepared to argue, and we're arguing. Put that on Facebook. The government goes to Facebook and says, take that down. Take it down right now. Take it down. People are going to get sick. People are going to get harmed. Get rid of that speech. And Facebook goes along with that to get the government off their backs. Question, does that violate the First Amendment? It absolutely does.
When I was a kid, I'm like about 13 years old. I'll never forget, I was sitting in the back of the car. My father was driving me, rest in peace. And my former brother-in-law, may he rest in peace, sitting in the front. And I'm shooting off my mouth. And my father turns around and looks at me. He says, "Papagalo," parrot. "Stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself." Not today. Hey, I'm some piece of scumbag shit, low-life politician. You'll do what I tell you to do. You swallow the shit that I throw out. You are not allowed to think for yourself. How dare you? How dare you? Who the f*** are you?
The whole purpose of the First Amendment is to keep the government out of the business of speech. Speech is a natural right that belongs to individual persons. The government does not have freedom of speech. The government has nothing to do with the marketplace of ideas. So the government sneakily goes behind the scenes to pressure those who own the bulletin boards, Facebook, Google, etc., to take down statements on the bulletin boards that the government hates or fears, or that challenge the government. That's absolutely prohibited by the Supreme Court.
I want to go back to this article that you have here, because, you know, you said enough is enough. If we don't fire and prosecute the folks who have sullied the Constitution, if we are no longer outraged at its most obvious violations, if we elect to office those who promise to uphold it and re-elect them after they have trashed it, we must recognize that we have lost freedom in our hearts. Judge, you could not have said that more passionately and truthfully.
The government thinks it can create rights. It can't. Rights come from our humanity, from our existence, to be alive, to think as you wish, to say what you think, to publish what you say, to defend yourself, to travel, to own property. These are natural human rights that exist in the absence of the government. Or the government grants privileges. It lets us vote to make us think we're influencing it. It gives us the privilege to drive on a government roadway if you pass the government tests. I get that. But rights come from our humanity. They don't require a precondition. They don't need a government permission slip. They don't need the consensus of the community. Speech is in that right. And when government interferes with a right, when government interferes with speech, it's doing the opposite of what we've hired it to do. We've hired it to protect our rights, and instead it's assaulting them.
By the way, I was very involved in the truckers movement. When they had rallies, I was speaking at them via Zoom. And these were real men and women that were fighting for freedom. And look what the government did to them. Passing an emergency act. You go back to 2019, Germany was that far away from recession, the fourth largest country economically in the world. There was a new world disorder, people taking to the streets in France, the yellow vests, in South Africa, in Algeria, in throughout South and Latin America, people taking to the streets. Then the COVID war happens. Things are going to go down. We're in a summer state of mind right now. The GDP numbers are going up because people are traveling more, spending more in restaurants, in hotels. They're not buying more products to bring up the GDP. And we're certainly not manufacturing them because the manufacturing numbers keep going down, as we detail in the Trends Journal, not only here, but in Europe as well and in China. Manufacturing is a key element. They don't talk about it. It's not what people buy. It's what they're making. And then as inflation, they're settling the bullshit that inflation numbers are coming down. They're not going down. 88% of the people swallow the crap spewing out of the mouth of that little nobody, George W. Bush. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden dead or alive, and we go into Afghanistan, the longest war in American history that cost us, what, about $5 trillion or something, if the numbers keep going on. So the people are dumb enough to believe this, they're dumb enough to believe anybody. And everybody listening, please do what you can do. Because if you don't do anything, then, you know, I always quote that St. Thomas Aquinas, that anyone that is not angry when it's justifiably justified to be angry is immoral. And those that are not angry when it is justifiably correct to be angry are immoral. And now is the time to be angry.
Yes.
Because what they're doing to us is not justified. It's immoral.